Hey everyone, it's John, aka Jab. It is Friday, November 9th, 2012, and I wanted to do a couple quick videos. This one's about gaming and what I've been up to. I know a lot of you might be wondering where have the game videos been, and before I go into the game stuff, I want you guys to know that basically when you're building an entire business entirely on your own, entirely from scratch, entirely, it takes a lot of time and resources. So, but I have been gaming, and unfortunately I just don't have the resources for hard drive space and whatnot. But alright, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, Diablo III, SimCity 3000, SimCity 4, Elder Scrolls Skyrim, Torchlight II, and a little World of Warcraft. Those are basically what I have installed on my computer, what I have in Steam specifically. I also have Borderlands and Civilization 5. So, and I also played a little bit of Serious Sam 3 earlier this year. And I got to play Portal 2. Alright, so I guess we'll go through Steam real quick. And if you guys add me on there, I think I'm Jab Creation. So my username on YouTube, all lowercase, one word, no spaces or dashes or anything like that. Let me know that you're coming over from YouTube or whatever. So, and I'll be happy to jump on Counter-Strike or anything multiplayer with you guys. Just keep in mind that if I'm in the middle, usually you'll want to send me an invite, and if I'm free, I'll jump on Steam. I usually don't leave Steam open all the time. And okay, so Borderlands. My friend Andrew over in Texas, who kicks total ass, he hooked me up with a copy of Borderlands, and he's really psyched about Borderlands 2. It took a little while to get used to because the map and the objectives are not really well. It's really vague, but after you kind of get used to it and you kind of stumble around in the game for a while, it's fun. I've noticed that you can level up a lot quicker when you're in a vehicle, running things down and shooting from the vehicle. It's kind of cheap. The issue there is that the game, you'll bump into a bunch of level 1 to 5 enemies, and then 50 feet later there's level 14, and then 50 feet later there's level 20 and whatnot. So, and the quests and what order you should do them is just, you can't really figure it out. So you just basically run around and try to find things to shoot and level up. So I hope Borderlands 2 is improved. Graphics are pretty sweet. I like them at least. So anytime you're talking about aesthetics, it's all subjective to the person's taste. So, alright, so Portal 2, I got to play that earlier this year. Or was it last year? I can't even remember. It's been, I've been doing so much that it's, but I got to play it, and that of course kicked ass, and it was very, very lengthy, which was nice, because anyone who's played Portal 1, you're like, that's it? It was just getting good. Well, I mean, it was all good, but, Played a little bit of Serious Sam 3, and there was one level where, it was a box where you went, one direction and you turn 2 or 3 times, and then you had to keep falling back, and you literally, the guns that I had in this one level, just going all out and reloading, unloading, reloading, and I had to fall back all the way to the beginning of the level. It's awesome. If anyone who's played Serious Sam should know, the Bomber guys are awesome. Sid Meier's Civilization 5. Now, I'm a SimCity kind of guy. I've beaten SimCity Classic 650,000 people. So anyone who's played SimCity Classic will know that's quite an accomplishment. I did that years and years ago when it was actually cool. And if it was, and yes, you need the terrain editor. And I figured out, oh, by the way, to get the terrain editor with the original classic game in-game, or in the game, and not like exit and then go back and exit and go back into the game, you actually have to use DOSBox, which is a total pain in the butt. And it works, but yeah. Alright, so Sid Meier's Civilization 5 is pretty cool. The thing is that the very first campaign level, which I have not finished, because it's like, hey, it's the campaign, bam, you only have 100 days. And I kept replaying it and trying to basically perfect how I was doing the opening. And you're playing as Genghis Khan, and you have to like take over entire, not the city-states, but the actual full-fledged nations. And while you do get beefed up towards the end, I just kind of got tired of messing around with it. But it was cool to mess with in general. The problem with Civilization 5 is that it's so vast and so... The difficulty is high, and I don't like playing games on easy mode. I really don't. I like a challenge, but I like a reasonable challenge. I'd rather have a reasonable challenge where if I'm playing a game and I don't really like a particular level, I can at least squeak by and get like a C. Or, like if you're in like, you don't want to get low grades in classes in real life, but you have that one class you really hate, and it was the only D you ever got, but you hated that class, and it just... So maybe that's just that one campaign level, but I haven't played any of the other campaign levels, and I really don't like cheating unless the game is absolutely positively cheap. So I think that's mainly an issue of you had to play the other 4 Civilization games or whatnot. But I really liked, the one thing I liked when I was playing with my friend Andrew on Steam is when the computer crashed, because it had to crash, right? When I came back, I was able to resume the game without him having to exit or anything, which is pretty cool. Only the AI built this ginormous tacky wall. It looked tacky. And it was, yeah. Anyway, Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Arms race. Okay. I know a lot of CS veterans are like really big on the classic mode where you like die in the first 10 seconds, and then there's some jackass who's like jumping up and down in a part of the level that no one ever goes to, and you're sitting there for 5 minutes, and no one can find that jackass. And I'll be honest, Arms Race is so much better, and there are a couple issues with Arms Race. There's this one gun where there's no zoom, and it fires like really slowly. I think it's around 16 kills, and you only have to kill one opponent with that gun. But it's such a pain to hit with, and one of the things I really liked is when I played Arms Race with Andrew, is that we were very, very close. We were very closely matched in skill, which is awesome when you have a buddy who doesn't wipe the floor with you, and you don't wipe the floor with them, and it's literally, and you both have the knife, and later on, I think I figured out how to disable the bots from getting the knife and doing the killing blow, because that's kind of lame when you both have the knife. There's 2 humans and you're on the opposite team, and then the bots get the winning kill. That's lame sauce. So, alright, so Diablo 3, because I am a poor bastard, because I'm an entrepreneur. Andrew hooked me up. Yes, Andrew is that awesome, and no, you may not have his screen name or anything. So he hooked me up with a year of World of Warcraft, and then they hooked me up with Diablo 3, which is pretty sweet. I wanted to do a Diablo 3 dedicated video, but I never got around to it. So let's put it this way. the demo, or the beta, which became the demo basically, really kicked all ass. It was beyond expectations. And then I remember the day where Andrew and another friend of ours who lives over in Texas, I'm stranded in Florida, we got past the Lich King, the Skeleton King? Yeah, the Skeleton King. And then we found out, okay, the falling star was super unrealistic black man, the agenda-laden propaganda version of black people that is completely unrealistic, but they put it out there. And that instantly screamed political agenda, because when you're in Act 2 and there's like 5 white females standing around, and now there's a black man standing there, and it wasn't even the same voice from as Tyrael in Diablo II. So, now I could understand for those of you who are Blizzard vets, when you hear Grom Hellscream in Warcraft 2, that's not realistic for World of Warcraft, okay. Maybe if they toned it down, but they killed Grom Hellscream. The voice, that's what I'm talking about. Alright? And one of the things that really, really sucked, and by the way, for the one black person who's watching, I don't have anything against black people, it's when people are used in a politically motivated agenda. Because there's a lot of anti-European racism out there in the media, the Zionist-dominated media. But I don't really want to get into politics, and I will delete any non-objective / non-civilized comments on the topic. But if you're objective and you want to comment about it, that's cool. Also, no swearing in the comments because kids going on here. So, Diablo III. So, one of the things that really sucked, and this happened, I think, in 2011, is Blizzard and Activision merged. And that was really balls. And the reason why it was balls is because Blizzard, they're not a perfect gaming company. But when they release a game, it's awesome, okay? So I'm going to try to tag the political propaganda on Activision, because the thing is, I've never heard of Blizzard screwing over their developers. Now, if they have, that's not right, because I'm a developer, web developer, so not a software developer. It's still programming, but it's kind of a different nature of a beast, but it's still a beast. And Activision, the Call of Duty, the original Call of Duty team, they got screwed over because Activision didn't pay them. I mean, they made huge buku bucks off of, like, I think it was Call of Duty 3 or something. I don't know. I've never been a COD player. So, but if, seriously, anyone who's playing Call of Duty, anything past that version of the game, who knew about this, and who still played and bought the game from Activision, shame on you. Never, ever, ever support any publishing company that screws over their developers. Period. That is one of the greatest sins in the software world. Now I know a lot of people will be like, "You pay for software?" Right. If software's done right and it's priced right, yeah, you should pay for software because people have to make an effort. Now, if you're like dirt poor, you're an entrepreneur, and you're trying to build a business, you know, or if you have literal good excuses for why you're not going to go out and spend $600 on Adobe Photoshop, okay, I can understand. You know, I think most people are justified. Like, if you talk about piracy and Hollywood screws over everyone over there. The publishers, it's absolute trash. They have Microsoft, by the way, don't use Skype. If you're using Skype, it's spyware. They can track all your torrents, and now Microsoft can listen into all your conversations. And yes, they are without a warrant, because if someone's listening to your conversations, they don't need a warrant. Same thing with the phone system. Cell phone, house, whatever. Welcome to Nazi America. Authoritarianism. That's what it's called, by the way. And if you look it up on Wikipedia, authoritarianism versus totalitarianism, I liked how they said there's just go over the list of the contrast between the two, and then I can't remember what it was offhand, but it wasn't very flattering of the leaders. So something like it was authoritarianism is more law-based and less about cult personalities. So yes. So anyway, but yeah, publishers in general tend to screw over people who actually do the work. That's both in Hollywood and in game publishers / game studios. So that's why I think Steam does a huge justice for game developers. I mean, I think it's a 40% cut. Now, you might think 40% of all the money you make is a lot of money, which it is, but then you start actually reading about how much money the publishers take from the game developers who are, I mean, let's put it this way, software development, for someone who's actually competent and productive, should be getting paid at least $25 an hour. At least that much money. And so, but at the same time, when companies milk, like for example Skyrim's still $60 on Steam. It's almost a year since it's been, actually it has been a year since it's $60 still on Steam. And then there's the game add-ons. Now, what the heck? Now you can get it for like $53 on Newegg, and I don't know if that, I think there's no shipping on that. But come on, that's just milking it. Same thing, Diablo III is still $60, almost. No, that came out in like March, I think. I can't remember offhand. So, but anyway, before I forget on Diablo 3, I hope my gamer viewers are feasting on the video and like more of the educated opinion. And no, I just don't not have the time to screw around with trying to get everything working and then doing fraps and then having 6 hours to shoot a video that actually finally works. And I'm really hoping that the microphone actually works this time. So I think I'm using the webcam versus the onboard, which didn't work on the Sound Blaster Audigy. I think it's that, and that was the one that the last video was all messed up with. And I did the test video before it, and it worked fine. So microphones can't work on a premium sound card, whatever. You gotta love the retardation. But hardware's been getting better. Well, if you're AMD and not really Intel, but that's a whole other video for another day. And I could just see people like, go, say it, it's the internet, say it. Anyway, so going to Diablo 2, Diablo 3. It's been quite a long time since Diablo 3 was intended to come out, so yeah, it's like Diablo 2. So, the other thing that really was balls about Diablo 3 was they killed Decker Kane. And that's retarded, alright? Now, I wrote a book that was 320 pages long, typed, in a DOS program in like, I was like 13, 14 when I started, and I finished when I was 18. So, and I was born in 1980. So do the math, because I'm not. And I mean, I definitely will be rewriting that book eventually. And there's a few things I'm kind of, well, besides life. But let's put it this way: killing main characters when you have, like, yeah, when you have Diablo 1, Diablo 2, and Diablo 3, and you have 0 repeating characters across all 3 versions of the game except for one, and you kill that one character, that's stupidity. Now, I don't think there's anyone out there who the internet would not overwhelmingly vote to punch in the face if we said Blizzard, basically Blizzard is not good at storytelling. They suck at storytelling. Alright, and pretty much everyone on the internet would vote to punch someone in the face if they actually have the nerve to say, oh, Blizzard's great storytelling. No, they suck at storytelling. Maybe, no. Just, no, I'm sorry. The games are great for the gameplay, and the mechanics are great where you can be unfamiliar with the game and get used to it, and it's really forgiving at first. And if you have absolutely no life at all, and you can, it's hard to master, easy to play, hard to master. I think that's what it is that I've heard before, like a long while ago. And that's the strong point of Blizzard games. And so I was really happy with the graphics. The graphics were great. But honestly, killing the main character and making a political agenda out of Tyrael just dropped it. That dropped it to a D at best. I'm sorry, it's a D at best. And here's the thing is, with the patches, I think 1.04, I haven't been able to play the game because my friend's credit card, something happened to the credit card, and Blizzard said, screw you, and I'm like, whatever, because, let's face it, they're really milking the auction house, and that's lame, because here's the thing is, I really think there should have been more character levels, and more of a sense of progressing through the character. 60 levels, I mean, here's the thing is, when you have a number, I think a lot of people are very about big numbers, but with my fictional universe, Questers, you're going to have the character level and the ascended level, and there's a slight association with a general span of let's say hundreds or thousands of normal character levels, and each character level would basically be associated with a single improvement. So, and I think because the whole you can't kill something in World of Warcraft that's 4 levels higher than you without going all out and getting every buff from a raid or something that's ridiculous. And I think, and especially with the way the levels drastically spike at the very high end. So if you have a level 70 character and you go into level 70 map and you're on a PvP map because your buddy is like, hey, I'm just going to go on a random PvP map, and the thing about World of Warcraft, I'm not going to talk too much about World of Warcraft for those of you ugh, wow. Which is a massively single-player game. But the thing with World of Warcraft is, again, Blizzard doesn't really understand. No, they don't understand balance. They suck at stories and they suck at balance. And I think if I can remember to go back to Diablo III in a moment. The thing with, for example, the reason why I really didn't stick with World of Warcraft, and it's kind of on and off, and I went on, I played it for a couple months, and I got tired of it, and I'd stop playing, whatever, when an expansion would come out. Because I like Blizzard games, but the execution, it's all about execution, and that's about the software. A release, like Skyrim, it was buggy as hell, okay? So that was a bad release. If you're going to release strong. If you can't finish the main storyline in a game without doing a cheat code, you did not release strong. Period. All right. Now, when I do websites and I work on my software and stuff for my website, I really go all out in trying to debug, and trust me, I will go into absolutely crazy minute details about some of the stuff I've been working on, and how much I absolutely respect the fact that you know how to use your computer from one power user to another. Now, I'm gonna right now, if anyone who says, you do a search to create a restore point in Windows 7, and they're not offended by that, they're not a power user, okay? Because as a power user in XP, you go to System Restore and you create a restore point in System Restore, not some miscellaneous system window. So a power user also has to be educated and also has to know what they're talking about. So just being able to know how to do things, but doing them in a convoluted way, does not make someone a power user. So I think that's an important clarification there. But I'm trying to keep this gaming oriented for the people who are really big into games. So, alright. So, Diablo 3. I gotta say some positive stuff. Okay, besides the artwork, the aesthetics of the game, I think it was good. And I think some people were complete spazzes. Really? There's spazzes on the internet? When they saw the rainbow in that one screenshot, and they're like doing this huge petition, it's like, it might be a dark world, but there might be one or two places where there's a little bit of life, maybe. Like there's one tree with green leaves on it, maybe, because there's trees on like half the levels or something. Well, Act 1, I guess. Yeah, basically Act 1. Okay. But here's the thing. Like, I live in Florida, and they call this the Sunshine State, and it's sunny every freaking day. Okay, and it's hot every freaking day, or at least like half the year. Okay, at least half the year. And it's very difficult to be comfortable and wear a shirt and not require 20 showers a day in Florida. That's not reasonable. So where am I going with this? I forgot. And I hit the microphone again. And I'm hoping that's not going to create a sound and I don't have to do a little text thingy down here. And if you guys are wondering why I'm like down here on the video, it's because I'm borrowing my friend's 32-inch screen. Because life is not nice sometimes, to keep it short. Unlike this video. Anyway, so Diablo 3 positive points. So I think the graphics in Diablo 3 are absolutely gorgeous. I think that's how they should have been done. One of the things that annoyed me in Diablo 2, even though Diablo 2, I think mechanically speaking, was a better game than Diablo 3. I'm going to say it outright. I've probably played hundreds of hours on Diablo 2. And anyone who... it was an awesome game. And you had to use map hack. Because here's the... And here's the thing with... Okay, before I forget. In Diablo 2, the one thing I couldn't stand with the graphics was that you could see the lines every so often for the textures on the map, especially around the borders, and I really didn't like that. That was sloppy detail, and honestly, that's something that goes in the weak release kind of ordeal. What I think, more issues with Diablo 3 is they gimp teleport on wizards, and really, you have more than 4 numbers on the numeric, there's more than 4 numbers on the keyboard going across left to right. And while I think for basic players that simplifies it, I really honestly think not having, I don't even remember because I haven't played it for like 3 months, not really having any way to really supplement the amount of mana or trying to diversify the different things that you would burn per class. I think it was a bit too gimmicky, and I really think that Okay, Diablo 1. There were two things I really liked about Diablo 1 compared to 2 and 3. Well, compared to 1. 1 versus 2, the artwork looked way better in Diablo 1 versus 2. And if you disagree, then again, that's aesthetics and that's subjective, but really, if you really go back and you look at Diablo 1 Tristram versus Diablo 2 Tristram, that's what I'm talking about. But in Diablo 1, what I really, really liked, and it was a lot more realistic. It was simple, but it, at the same time, was more realistic. They weren't going through a convoluted system. Was that if you were a warrior, you could still do Armageddon. It was like the hardest spell you could do. You could do all the spells. You didn't have as much mana, so you weren't mana-oriented, but you could still do it. Whereas Diablo 2 and Diablo 3, they're like, you're a barbarian. You're a retard. You just beat things with your meat, your man meat. And that took away the more fun aspects of the subjectivity, because dual classing kicks ass. It does. And trying to create like a class that's like a dual class kind of ordeal, I think if you stick to fundamentals with main classes and then the character develops over time, because it's like, how many people, I mean, not everyone, but a lot of people might say, well, yeah, I knew this one guy who was a mechanic for 5 years, but it really wasn't working out, and while he loved cars, or she loved cars, or whatever, you know, they ended up going over to this, and it ended up working a lot better, and they ended up liking that just as much, if not more, than what they were doing before. And, you know, I think when you keep some things simple, it allows complexities to build in their own right. So Diablo 1, Diablo 2, and Diablo 3 all have their high points, but I think there was too much change, and that's a big issue with software, is change versus evolution. Evolving software versus changing software. You know, put it very simply. If your computer did everything you wanted it to, and it wasn't retarded like Windows 7, and yes, Windows 7 is retarded, and I will completely own anyone and everyone who even thinks about trying to argue against it, because you don't search for things. You go to things. When you're at a red light and the person in front of you does not release the lever the moment the light goes green, okay, do you want to be behind someone at a traffic light or anywhere that's searching, or do you want to be behind someone who's going? Okay, I'm going to make a video about this eventually. So I don't think Diablo 3 evolved. I think it just kept changing, and they're so... Yeah, I could keep going on about Diablo 3. SimCity 3000. Okay, so I tried to do all high tech. I want to do a clean city. In SimCity Classic, I was able to pull off zero traffic in the 654,000 population city that I did. And to beat it, you had to do 500,000. I've never, ever seen anyone beat SimCity Classic. So, and I emailed the guy who did the series, and I never got a response back, so, yeah, whatever. So SimCity 3000, which is very, I think, for anyone who's lazy-brained, it would be very good to play a SimCity game, because it's very mentally stimulating, which is bad if you're trying to go to sleep at night and you just finished playing the game and you're laying down in bed and you have difficulty falling asleep. I don't recommend doing that. SimCity 3000, the one thing that was kind of cheap, and I had tons of rail, I had an airport, I had a seaport. It was at the point where, and yes, I had maxed out the tax rate for dirty and what was it? Dirty and industrial, not industrial, what did they call it? We got rid of it in America. Well, we didn't get rid of it, the politicians got rid of it in America. Manufacturing. So dirty in manufacturing, I add 20% tax rate maxed out, and tech industry 0% tax rate until I had a little bit and I needed some taxes. And I kept going as far as I could, and then at the point where I had like 10, 20,000 people, and it just refused to give a reasonable demand. It was like 21st century by then, and I was really crimping on. I really gimped the budgets for things like police and firefighters and whatnot. And that's an example of when the game did not say, you know what, I realize you're trying to do something the smart way, but I'm just not going to let you do it. And so I had to end up using cheat codes, which, again, I really don't like using cheat codes unless a game is cheap. I'm going to put it that way. If a game is cheap, I will use a cheat code. Because if some people, they'll just blow through a game, but when you really want to achieve something and say, yeah, I did this, but you're also not the type of person who's going to blow 5,000 hours of your life on something because you have like a life and you're trying to do things with it, there is a point where you say, F this, I'm going to cheat because it's a game, you know? And yeah, I know a lot of you probably like, why hasn't John posted any game videos? Because you guys will see soon why I haven't posted any game videos, if anything, for like a few months. And I think a big part of, I give you the Elder Scrolls. One of the biggest things that's always annoyed me about the Elder Scrolls is that it's oriented around one character. That's it. Okay? Because, like, my ex-girlfriend liked playing the Elder Scrolls. And I'd sit there and let her watch the game for, like, 4 or 5 hours. You know? And that was awesome, having a girlfriend who liked to play video games. Anything. And she liked Diablo III. And that was pretty awesome. Hey, you know, someone who shares your interest. But I'd have to scroll down and find her save file, and because I'm not a rich, filthy bastard, I don't have, you know, all my important stuff is on my D drive, which is a RAID 1 320. So those are 2 mechanical hard drives. And 320 gig hard drives, I mean, they're not horribly old, but they're not, I mean, even the newer drives that are mechanical, I mean, I'm not going to, why would I have everything on my D drive instead of my C drive? Why? Because Windows is going to F up, okay? And I'm not going to have my My Documents folder on the C drive, period. In fact, I keep actual copies of the installs for a lot of stuff on my Z drive, which is this massive bulk 1.5 terabyte drive, also in RAID 1. And so I have my SSD. Look at my stats on the sidebar in my channel, or go to my site, jabcreations.com, and under Gamer, it's the one thing under the Gamer section, John's computer. You look at the stats. So it doesn't matter what operating system it is. I've even had Linux say, screw you, you don't need a desktop, and just go to the console. And I was like, I scrapped it. And any Linux people are like, why did you scrap it? You could just do, no, dude, it's a whole nother thing I could talk about. So yeah, when you're loading the save files, and I'm doing a really good job at remembering what I was going at when I go off on a small tangent over here. So when you load the files, the drive it, and that's when you're like, you just mouse over, and of course the mouse not just got to do this, it's got to go, and of course the computer's already registered the mouse doing this, so even if you've done this, but then you move the mouse over to get away from going over more menus, too late. So when, you know, I can get a couple 480 gig SSD drives for like $50 a pop, you know, but until that day, I'm stuck with the 320s, and they're more than sufficient space-wise for my documents folder. So, and I went on the forums, like, after it was, after Skyrim was announced, and I said that this is a must-have feature. It would probably take one guy like a couple hours to implement, like Uber coders who are all over the place. I'm more of a coder where 90% of the time I'm doing a lot of thinking because I really haven't gone into what is special about my software. I mean, there's a lot of things that are special about my software, but when I do something, I really have to do it in certain ways, and that will become vividly clear, well, at some point. So, but anyway, why not? I mean, that's one of the things that and not releasing strong when there's lots of bugs. And I think that's one of the things that I think that's going to be more publishers putting pressure on developers, where we have to make this release date. It has to be, we want 2011 or whatever, because it's nice and clean and it's good for marketing and blah blah blah, and it'll look really sleek in the video. Okay, whatever. And they don't release strong. And I think, honestly, they're going to charge $60. They're still doing it. And they wanted it for the Christmas season. And really, waiting for those patches sucks. And I really, honestly, would rather play the game without having to say, I need a patch. I could see another, what's that? Half-Life 2 video with, I can't remember, maybe I'll do a little thing at the end and whatever, but they use Half-Life 2 and the other Steam games as props. I think it's up to like 9 episodes now or whatnot. It's freaking hilarious. But anyway, yeah, release strong or just don't release, period. Got to be like a 40-minute video at this point. I might end up having to split in half. So, I haven't been playing StarCraft 2. Let's put it this way: when you go online and 95% of the opponents are just trying to get a cheap thrill win. I played Terran and I stayed Terran for a while, and then I went Protoss because I was like Void Ray rushes were really lame, so I should be able to do Void Ray rushes. And I really started liking playing Protoss. But the thing is that people don't play it for fun, so it's always something cheap. And you'll always play that one guy who, even in bronze, okay, because yes, I was very high bronze. I'd rank anywhere from 5 to 2 on a bronze when I really went at it, okay? And keeping in mind that I have a life and video games are like, I'm done working the 6 to 12 hours or whatever I can concentrate on for code. Sometimes I do 14 or 16 hours on a real crazy day. And keep in mind, I don't take days off. Like, there are more weekends in a year than there are days I take off. And probably that's still even more days than I take off. That's like maybe I might go to a medieval fair, or I might help a friend move or something. All right, I really work every single day on my software. Get, most people and I understanding. So if I game on a day, it's about half and half. Sometimes I game, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I post a video on YouTube. Yeah. And when a game gets to the point where people are just laming out and cheesing left and right, it's not fun. I mean, it's fun when you go on with your friend. Like, Andrew that wasn't one of his stronger games, because he's more laid back, but he's really great at shooters. Okay. Alright, because I've can get my butt kicked by some of my friends on some other games. All right. So sometimes you have a really good matchup, sometimes you don't. But if it was like he and another friend would go on, and I'd play 1 versus 2, and I'd still throw on another computer just because it wasn't that challenging, and I'd kind of like try to man them up a bit and help them out with strategies. But when you have some really laid-back people, they're not really that big in strategy. The thing that I really want to see in strategy is kind of like World of Warcraft, but again, the thing was with guilds and whatnot, and time, and there's a lot of time wasting and grinding and whatnot, and not knowing where to go, and then you have to go halfway across the map and whatnot. But I mean, they did evolve World of Warcraft where you could finally get into the bigger raids, which was the one positive thing I could say about World of Warcraft, the newer expansions. But like StarCraft, I mean, people are so intent on getting a cheap win. There's no mid game, and you watch the StarCraft 2 replays, and I did that for like probably almost a year, and you'd see all these cool strategies people are using, but you can never use them because 95% of the people you go on against were cheap, and it was bronze, and I think that was really lame. And again, this is balance issues. Protoss were always boned. They kind of had a little bit extra defense, but not enough to deal with cheese. And that was one of the biggest problems in PvP is cheese. All right. And if you're not listening to complaints, if you're not listening to for example, I listen to the criticisms I get about sites I work on. Now, this is the internet. 95% of the stuff that is spewed on the internet is okay. A lot of it is people who are a little bit over too enthusiastic, and maybe they should listen to other people before they start sharing their opinion or dictating. Okay? And, you've got to be, you can't always be right about everything. Not always right about everything, okay? But when you really know you're right, drop the ego thing, because one of the things that I really don't like about software companies is egoism, And if a company gets really too big, even developers, but I think this is, again, going more to the publishers, ignoring people and saying, we know better than our users is a beautiful way to end up with something like Windows 8. Because, and this is most especially true about power users, when you have people who actually know what they're doing, shut up. Because a lot of people, for example, when I start talking to them, they'll interrupt me, and they don't know how to read someone who knows what they're talking about. Because I'm not going to go on a rant or start talking about something like I'm talking about, unless I actually know what I'm talking about. Okay? And a lot of this is mechanics, a lot of this is programming related. So the experience, ultimately it comes down to code. Alright? It comes down to experience in using the code. Alright? And that's why, again, the change versus evolve bit. I haven't changed my website. I haven't changed my software. I've evolved my software. I've made it better. I looked at what worked. Alright? And the same thing with video games. Any video game. If you have a sequel, and you never, ever, ever do prequels, the instant disaster. I have never, ever seen a prequel that does not completely, totally suck, and is not completely, totally balls. Okay? Prequels equals balls. Don't do them ever. Don't do them on books. Don't do them on movies. Don't go. If you could do a time machine, just don't go to the past. Period. prequels suck. Alright? If there was one word to define the word suck, it would be prequels. Period. Alright? Sequels don't necessarily have to suck. Star Wars? Okay. And I watched Star Wars and I watched the original episodes 4 through 6. So, and that was part of the thing is Star Wars proved that sequels don't have to suck. Okay. So they were talking like the Empire Strikes Back. We're on like an hour. Gaming goodness, right? But hey, I wanted to give my gaming viewers something to gnaw on, so. Alright, so here. So, I think they really dropped the ball with that on Elder Scrolls. Not having multiple character selection in the menus. This is really a pain in the butt. And I know I kind of went around for 10 minutes and came back to that, but excuse me. This is a video about that, about gaming in general. So, Torchlight 2. Okay. Torchlight 2. So, a lot of the original Diablo 2 programmers, from my understanding, Diablo 2, I don't know if there were also Diablo 1 or not, got together and said, well, we're not being used for Diablo 3, or something like that. I don't know. There's a backstory somewhere. And they got together, they made a company, and they made Torchlight 1 and 2. Okay. I played the demo for Torchlight 1, and I'm going to be honest with you, I don't want to spend all my time on a video game in a cave. No. Now, occasionally, yes, and Skyrim pulls it off alright, because you have like parts where there's light coming down from like the surface and whatnot. But generally, caves, yeah, they're just not. I think it's more of the whole horror suspense kind of deal, and I'm more like an action adventure, doing something, you know, occasionally doing a little thieving, sneaking around, that sort of thing. But caves, I mean, in real life, that might be different. Because here's the thing, something that's on the computer and something that's in real life can be worlds different. Alright, and I can't stress that enough. So, but caves, I'm just not a big caves guy. So, I never really had any interest in Torchlight 1. Torchlight 2, yeah, they have caves, but it's not like a dominating feature of like, yeah, you'll go into like a main map and there's levels or areas, and then there's a cave here and there, whatnot, and that's cool. So, I think it's too cartoony. I'm going to be honest. It was very difficult to get a hang of when I'm looking at the items, and I think, again, like I said about Diablo 1, I think it's, even though there are only a handful of classes, I think not allowing a little bit of subjectivity. I want to be able to play a warrior that can set people's heads on fire, because that would be cool, right? Because you have a little bit of magical skill, and it's not your main thing, but, you know, it's like, I chop people together Monday through Friday, and on Saturday, I set them aflame. But, you know, see, if you mix it up a little bit, then the character doesn't just become George Carson. Little skit comes like 10 classmates minus 3 classmates equals, you know, maybe someone out there will remember what I'm referencing there. But, yeah, mixing it up, not being so rigid in that this class can only do this and that's all they can ever do, and that's for some narrow-minded people, that might be the most wonderful thing in the world that they can't. But so I think that covers most of it. Oh, and there's SimCity 4, which I've played. Was it SimCity? No, that was SimCity 4 with the industrial and whatnot. I think I covered it all. So, but yeah, so unfortunately, I think this is going to be it for a while for gaming. Now, this doesn't mean I'm not interested in doing more gaming videos. I'm going to be honest. It's a time issue for me. And it's also kind of a sweating to death and trying to put a video together and whatnot, and having something that's, even if I get a video and it's great, and I re-encode it, and the re-encoding doesn't suck, and if the actual video footage was not really worth posting, it's sort of ordeal. And I'm going to be honest, I just have not been. I'm still stuck on my AM3 system, and because I had a girlfriend at the time, I was not able to upgrade. It was basically upgrade computer or girlfriend. Upgrade computer or girlfriend. Girlfriend. That was a pretty easy decision. In general. So I basically, all the 6 cores got sold out, and I'm still stuck with a 4 core with 6 megabytes of cache, but it can't overclock more than like 3.1 gigahertz, which is balls again. So unfortunately, yeah. So if we're talking hardware, because gamers like hardware, we like our hardware. Intel still sucks, and they're still brute forcing it. And anyone who disagrees can go look. It's like only a few videos back if you go to my channel right now, and if the video becomes like really wicked old or whatnot, remind me, and I'll go on and append the channel comment, and then check the channel comment. But yeah, dude, AMD released the second 4 gigahertz CPU ever, and it was an 8 core, a 4 gigahertz 8 octa-core beast. And some people are like, well, yeah, but single-threaded performance, blah blah blah, single-threaded performance. Yeah, it counts to an extent, but if you're running an Intel rig and you're not filthy rich, or you're not filthy rich, but you would spend money on a computer leagues ahead before you would spend money on a girlfriend if you had a girlfriend, which you probably don't if you own a $1,000 Intel CPU, you're probably running a 4 core. And people are like, no, I do control delete, and I see 8 threads. That's hyper-threaded. Those aren't real cores over there. They're like, at best, 20% each. So, but yes, when you're doing virtualization and video encoding, more cores is very highly desirable. And it would be kind of nice to be able to actually do more than like a very slight increase in frequency. Even though frequency is not everything, it would be nice to actually get like a reasonable clock rate on a CPU. But so priorities, money. So I really have not had anything worthwhile. I've got a new mouse because my old mouse broke, and that's it. I got a 5770, and I mean it wasn't a big enough ordeal to post videos about and whatnot. So, but when I come out with some of the stuff I'm coming out with in about a week or so, you guys will have some you'll begin to have a very slight understanding about what I'm doing. And trust me, when I'm ready to reveal a lot more and the implications of what I'm working on, I think you guys will be able to forgive me for lack of the gamer videos, because then once things start rolling and I have the money, trust me, I will be doing some serious hardcore gaming videos. So, but everything has a time and place. So, I can't think of anything else. I've talked about hardware, just really nothing new hardware-wise. AM2, by the way, yeah, I guess I could make another video about AM2 stuff, but not AM2, FM2. FM2 socket is looking pretty rock solid. AMD, by the way, will be releasing 20nm half-node CPU and APUs next year, most likely. So there was a little questionability, or there was questions of if they would even release piledriver. They released piledriver, so we'll probably see 28nm APUs and CPUs probably late 2013, and Global Foundries announced that they were going to try to catch up with Intel, because everyone's like, Intel's so much better at single-threaded, but they're a full node ahead of the entire industry, and no one ever mentions that when they say, look, Intel owns AMD. No, they don't, because you're comparing a 22-nanometer CPU that only has 4 CPU cores compared to a 32-nanometer CPU that has 8 real cores, and of course, a full node difference is going to make a huge difference. So you never see them say, hey, let's take a 32-nanometer Intel and compare it to a 32-nanometer AMD. This is why you guys watch me, because I know what I'm talking about. Anyway, no swearing in comments. I love you guys, you kick ass, and trust me when I release some of the videos that I'm going to be releasing really soon. We're talking 1-2 weeks tops. Alright. Unless something really huge and life-altering happens, I promise 1 or 2 weeks tops I will have some sweet full-screen 1080p videos. I promise that. And yeah. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys soon.